After having a baby, you will go through 3 stages of postpartum bleeding. And this postpartum bleed is called lochia. And there are 3 stages to lochia. Oh, and first I want to mention, what is lochia made of? So it is made of blood, tissue lining of your uterus, amniotic fluid, different bacteria, microorganisms, and any leftover fetal membranes. So there's a lot going on there, but it mainly just looks like a lot of blood. It can be normal in the first couple days for there to be blood clots, a lot of kind of like stringy tissue. So all of that is normal. So speaking of that, this first stage, it's called lochia rubra, and it lasts for, the first 3 to 4 days after having the baby. It's pretty dark or like bright red blood. There's quite a lot of it. It flows like a heavy period. You will likely soak a pad every couple of hours. And you might have some like a little bit of period-like cramping afterwards. And that's pretty normal. That cramping is coming from your uterus contracting back down to size. And again, having some clots is pretty normal. Okay, the next stage after those first 3 or 4 days is called lochia serosa, and this lasts for about 4 to 12 days. And at this stage, that discharge starts to become more like pinkish, a little bit more watery, not as much blood, and the flow is moderate. So you're probably not going to need those heavy-duty pads anymore, but you will still need a pad, and you shouldn't really have any clotting during this time. And the last phase is lochia alba. And at this point, you really shouldn't have much blood. There still, of course, might be like a little bit of spotting, but at this point, the discharge is more like white, a little bit yellowish. And this lasts for about 12 days, potentially up to 6 weeks. And there should not be any clots during this time. And a sign that you have an infection is if any of this discharge is green or if it has a foul odor. It should just smell like kind of like period blood, a little bit musty. So if there's a really foul odor or any greenish discharge, definitely let your care provider know. Other things that could be a sign of something not being quite right is if you really, really have excessive bleeding. If you feel like this is abnormal, like if you totally soak a pad in like less than half an hour, or anytime you feel like this seems off, let your care provider know. Even if nothing is wrong, it's all totally normal, always best to let your care provider know. If you have a fever, chills, feeling really dizzy, if you're having a lot of swelling, especially around your vaginal area, like a lot of swelling, a little bit of swelling is normal after a, a vaginal birth. But if it's like tight to the touch, if it's really painful, let your care provider know. And a couple of things that can temporarily increase the flow of the lochia is, if you've been in bed for a long time and then you stand up, you can have a release. If you've been exercising a little bit, like for me, at around 3 or 4 weeks postpartum, I started just doing like some walks around my yard. And after I would do that, I would experience a little bit more lochia. And so that can happen if you're getting in some like light exercise, just some movement that can create a little bit more of a temporary flow. And breastfeeding can potentially increase the release of the lochia. All right, if you have any questions about this or anything else about pregnancy, childbirth, early motherhood, go ahead and let me know in the comments.